thank you so much for joining me on this session. I'm so grateful to have you here. Can you please introduce yourself to us and tell us about your scholarship?
Hi everyone, I am Melissa Dwisi. I am a Fulbright scholar for the year 2019. I'm a trained development economist with special interests in peace and development. Development in the peace milieu, education, and inclusiveness. I currently am working on building an academic complex in Cameroon that is quite inclusive, while alongside delving in a lot of research work and of course development projects.
So just take me through the application process to the Fulbright scholarship. What are the steps involved in it? I've gone through them, but I think it would be better to hear from like an applicant and a grantee of the scholarship. What is the process like?
In one word, I would say it's a growth process. And I think that's why I smiled, because the person who started the application and the person who got granted the scholarship are two different people. The beautiful thing about the Fulbright scholarship is that it grows you, and at the end of the day, even if you don't get funded, even if you don't get your scholarship, you really grow into a professional. They have a way of bringing that out of you. So right into the question, I first started my application. I gave in my application in February 2018. And the first step is basically going on the website, taking the application form, and then filling out your application and submitting before the deadline. So, so when you do that, I did that. When you do that, it's going to take about 2 to 3 months for the embassy, because you're actually, the first step is applying to the U.S. embassy in the country, and so when you do that, it's going to take about 2 to 3 months for them to get back to you, because there are a lot of applicants, of course. And so when they'll get back to you in about 2 to 3 months time and tell you, hello, you've been shortlisted as a Fulbright potential candidate and blah blah, we give you about 2 weeks to prepare to come to the embassy and talk about your career plans. And then when you come after that, for me it happened in May 2018, and so I went to the embassy. And I had to talk about myself. I had to talk about what I wanted to go and study in the United States in front of a panel of judges in court, And that in itself is a whole experience, because the whole American embassy meet and all those things. So it was a whole experience for me. And from there, they're going to again select finalists, right? And from the finalists, that's the process just begun. When you're a finalist, you just begun your process, because after that, you have to write the TOEFL, you have to write the GRE. For most applicants, you have to write the TOEFL, write the GRE. You have to rewrite your application, and then they'll have to send that application to the various schools in the United States. First, they'll ask you to choose 3 of your choice, and when you choose those 3 of your choice, yes. They'll send to those, but they'll also send to other schools that they think match your competence. And then from there, you're going to have to wait for schools to start accepting you. If you get accepted, by accepted I mean admitted, like get admission in schools. If you get admitted, because not everyone gets admitted, if you get admitted, right, you start following up the processes now for your visa and all those things, and you get a lot of orientations and support from the embassy before you go. And then, after that, once you get your school and then you start getting the support and the emails, then you get awarded the scholarship. So the award of the scholarship actually comes after you've gotten an admission, not when you're selected as a finalist. So that's, in a nutshell, how the process goes. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So, do you have a sense of like how many people were shortlisted versus how many people made it as finalists? Like, how tough was it?
It's tough. I mean, it's tough. I mean, the year I think 2 years before I was selected, I think we had just one candidate from Cameroon, and the year before, I'm not too sure we had any graduate students leaving, and in our cohort we were three, and three was a crowd. Three was a crowd, and I think for the we're 20 we're select 20 people were selected as finalists. But I mean, as finalists, meaning I don't even know how many how many applied, how many were shortlisted, but as finalists we were 20, and three of us got the scholarship. So it's quite competitive.
Yeah, that's tough. Okay. And I was just reading through the application documents, and there's a place where they speak about like you need to write like a research statement, or like some kind of like a research proposal, and they are very specific about it. They ask you to like describe what it is that you want to study about in like specific words. How did you approach writing? I think it was the research objective. Like, how did you approach writing that? Like, what was your thought process towards it? How did you approach it?
Okay, so that part first, I'll have to say, for your viewers, the one of the most important parts of your Fulbright application is what you just mentioned. So you may gamble your way through any other thing, but your personal statement, your research objectives, that is what gets you the scholarship. So because I was able to identify that, honestly, I really freaked out at the first time I saw it, because I'm like, I don't have a clear idea of what I want to study as of now. I mean, I'm just from the university. Sure, I've had like 2 years work experience, but I need some more. I need something more to work with. So I got a lot of mentorship in that, because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I had a sense, an overall sense that, okay, I want to work with in economics, I want to do development stuff. So I went online, I looked at previous grantees, like people who had had the scholarship before. Fortunately, there were some of them who did what, like who were funded in similar things that I wanted to do. I went online and I looked at Cameroonians who studied economics in general, and I reached out to them. I was like, okay, please, this is what I want to do. This is, for example, I want to study development economics, and I remember that's what I kept saying. And they'll tell me, Melissa, that is too broad. What do you want to focus in? And I would say, I don't know. Like, and then they started shooting a lot of articles my way. So I read a lot of articles. I read a lot about the field of economics. I read a lot about the different possibilities around, and I had to make a choice. And I think that's what that I'm talking about, the research objective. I had to make a choice about what is it exactly that I want to know in the like I want to know what exactly what skill, what field do I want to grow with this opportunity. And I think it makes a lot of sense for the embassy to request of this, because I mean, you're going to be receiving thousands of US dollars. You need to know why you want to get this money. And so I got a lot of mentorship, I got a lot of readings, and I had to make a choice. And so I narrowed down my options, and I came out, okay, I want to work a lot in policy. I mean, I think that's the overarching thing, economic policy. I want to know more about economic policy. And then I had to read about economic policy and then say, okay, I don't have this. If I can get a scholarship that trains me in this, then I'll be able to get that. And personal statement, I mean, again, I had to read a lot of other personal statements. I got mentors, and it's not like I needed you to tell me about my life, because personal statement is what I'm saying. But I mean, I needed someone to, the wordings, the way I structured it, my storyline, and all those things. I needed some people to help me structure that out, and I had to be authentic. I think that's one thing that I never knew about, and I would really advise anyone going in for the Fulbright scholarship to do. Be authentic, because I mean, I feel like the personal statement is just, I write, I want to do this, I'm really passionate about this, but my personal statement got really personal, and I was being truthful. I had to make sure that I don't arouse unnecessary sympathy, but I communicate my story and link my story to why I'm passionate about what I'm passionate in development studies. And I think that is one thing that um, I did when I was writing my personal story. I really wrote out my heart on that paper, and I know, I mean, so that was a little bit around how my brain
Mhm.
was structured
Mhm.
around that.
Okay. So if I can just put like a summary of it, you reached out to mentors, they gave you
Yeah.
ideas about it, they asked you questions, and then they gave you like articles through which you read. Then through reading it, you got a good sense about what exactly it is that you wanted to study. And then through that you got a lot of clarity, and then you were able to like write down something. And then same thing with like writing like your motivation letter. There was also this sense of you had mentors and helping you through the process. So when you talk about like the mentors, yes, they sent you articles, they asked you questions, but when you came down to like putting pen to paper, how did you think about it? Did you have to make summaries of all of these articles and then come down to writing like a final product of it? Did you write 2 3 versions and then submitted the fourth version, or how was it like both for the research objective as well as the personal statement? And the reason why I'm staying on this is just as you said, this is like the core of the application process. You can dabble your way through everything, but if you get this right, then probably you get a good chance of getting the scholarship. So how was it like for you? Did you write several copies before you made it to the final version of it?
Yes, I did write a lot of copies. Um, okay, right. So if I mean, recently I just decided to go through my email and see, I mean, what my exchanges with my mentors at that time were, and I realized that I have honestly at least 20 copies of my research objective. That's because I kept writing and rewriting. I kept because I'll go really concrete. For example, I have a background in economics. I studied at the University of Boya, and I coming out of there is not much I knew about the world of economics. I didn't know that data is used in economics. I didn't know when I talk about evaluations, I didn't know that evaluations are a core part of economics. I didn't. I mean, there are a lot of things I didn't know. So when I spoke with my mentors, the first thing that hit me was I had to accept that there is a lot that I didn't know. And if I went with my ignorance into a hall to try to convince a panelist of five, I would fail. And so it took me having to say, okay, these are different thematic that I have discovered. And I really literally had to start writing notes around them. Like, for example, policy. What is policy? How does it relate to economics? Is this something that I would want to do in economics? Like, it's not just I want to do a master's in economics. That's not it. Like, what exactly? And I had to think about, okay, how is it going to benefit my country? Because that's why I'm studying. How will it benefit, for example, Africa? How is it relevant? Those are the core questions I was asking myself. How is it relevant in my context? How can I mean, how can I grow in this? Where are the potential places I can work with this knowledge? Those are the questions that I ask like myself for each of those different fields. And then when I would do that, I'll say, okay, hi, mentor, I have this brilliant idea. I want to study about I just want to do research methodologies in economics. And you're like, you know what? Like, there's no program that's just going to teach you research methodologies. And I'm like, but I have a whole research proposal around this and all those things. So, um, and he'll take me back. And I like the fact that they kept asking me questions, and the fact that I kept having questions made me to keep right. Like I had to really do a resume. So the research question also had to do with the things I had to think about is what are the problems I'm trying to solve in my society. It's not just about me wanting to study. Okay, I've discovered that there are this many branches in economics, and I just want to poof and go into it. No, I want to know what are the problems my society is facing, and I think talking to viewers who want to apply, I think you should start from here. What are the problems I want to solve in my society? What do I want to know about these problems? What are the solutions I want to get? Like, how do I think my studies will bring solutions to these problems? Um, um, I mean, and then from there you'll be able to have, okay, this is authentic me, this is what I can do, this is where I want to be, and this is how relevant these things are in my society. And you'll be able to know how to pen down your research objectives. Yeah.
Okay. And you spoke about like the mentors, like those that you worked with and they gave you ideas and helped you like craft it and probably streamline it down to something that was like Fulbright worthy. How did you get these mentors? Like, where did you find them? How did you reach out to them? Was it cold emailing or you had people that introduced you to them? What was the process towards getting your mentors?
Okay. It's funny because first of all, the embassy, the coordinator at the embassy is going to help you out a lot. He's not going to help you out. I mean, he's not going to show you what to do, but he's going to guide. I mean, that's when you're already a finalist. He's going to guide you because I think they are very knowledgeable on a lot of thematic. So that was one of my I'll call mentors for my program. When you send the applications to them, they are going to prompt you with a lot of questions, and even their questions would help you narrow down whatever you're thinking about. And I think even for the finalist stage, your work will still be broad because you have to rewrite your research objectives. And I think it's as a result of the many questions that they keep asking you, the people at the embassy keep asking you, that you'll be able to know how to streamline that. Now, but then my other mentors that I got, you can request the coordinator, the Fulbright coordinator at the time, to for previous Fulbright grantees, like request for their contacts, and they'll try to link you with them. I had that, and then in an informal conversation, I just happened to meet someone whose brother was a Fulbright grantee. And I was like, hey, can I meet your brother? Like, I really want to apply for this scholarship. That was even before I thought about the scholarship. Like, I really want to apply for the scholarship. And we got to meet, and I was like, this little ambitious girl, I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do. And he was like, okay, so we'll have to start with. He started asking me very specific questions that really challenged me. And I was like, I'll never, ever speak to this man again, because he just feels like, he made me feel like I know nothing and all these things. But with time, I was able to, again, humble myself and realize that it was a growth process. And then for the other, there was another. I reached out. I went into her office. My other, she was at the University of Boya. She's not a Fulbright grantee. She's a grantee of the this Chevening scholarship. I went into her office and I was like, "Hi, I am Melissa, and I just like the way, you organize things and all those things, and I want you to help me walk through my personal statement." So there was that as well. Emailing was not a lot because I got to meet the people. My experience is that I met the people face to face, but I didn't get to email a lot of people. Oh, but I wrote. I gave out some emails though. I never got some responses for some other people who are in my domain, and some other people who were really not even. They were not mentors to me, but I just reached out to them because I wanted to know their experience in economics. I reached out to so many people. There's this person I'm thinking about right now. I reached out to him just because he's a prominent figure in Cameroon, in economics. And I did not have, and he's English speaking. I mean, no bias, but I felt like I needed some people that I could really communicate with and have. I felt I wanted someone that is English speaking. There were French speaking people, but I wanted to see a figure that has made it to the top rank and is English speaking, and I can relate to, And so I went and I met him. He's a prominent figure. He works at the central bank. And I went and I was like, please, I went to his office. I don't know where the courage came from at that age, but I was like, I just need you to tell me about your experience, so that I can know exactly whether I want to follow this kind of route or I want to do something else. So that's how I got my mentor.
Oh, wow. Very brave of you. Very brave of you. That's good. That's good. Wow. Okay. And let's just talk a bit. We've handled the core of it because, just as you said, like the research objective and the the personal statement is actually the core of all of this. But let's just talk a bit about the recommendation letters. They say that you're supposed to have like one either given by like a supervisor from school, as well as someone that, or maybe someone that has supervised you in a working capacity, like academic or professional, and of course nobody like not a blood relation or things like, or a family member and things like that. So how did you get like your recommendation letters? Did you pick specific professors? Were you strategic about it, or did you just say anyone who had supervised me, you can write a recommendation letter for me? What was the thought process there?
While as an undergrad in the University of Boya, I was already working and doing a lot of development work. So I knew the importance of having recommendations from there. And so while I was in school, I identified strategic people who I felt I would want to, like, who I felt would be my preferred recommenders. And I began building relationships with them, like making them to know me and see me, so that if I ever ask them to recommend me, they'll not be like, I don't know this girl, we have 1,000 students in class and all those things. So I reached out. So that was my thought process. I was strategic about it. While I was in undergrad, I made sure that, my class had 1,000 plus students. I needed to find a way to stand out, to make myself known. So I started. My supervisor actually did not recommend me for the Fulbright scholarship. It was actually I had two other professors who knew me, and who I also looked up to, because they were doing things that I felt sometime in my life I would want to be like you. I would want to do this. So I began building these relationships with them. And so when the time for my school Fulbright scholarship came, I was like, okay, sir, I just sent them emails. And I was like, please, this is a scholarship. Can you please recommend me for this scholarship? And then they wrote a whole recommendation letter and sent back to me. And I was really grateful, because I was really discouraged. A lot of people discouraged me. They told me you have to pay for recommendation letters, and I was really serious about not paying. I was like, I can't pay you to recommend me. It doesn't make sense. And I said, I'm going to try to be genuine and authentic about it. And so I really applaud my lecturers who took their time, and some of them I asked them one day to time, like, please sir, this is a scholarship I'm applying for, can you please just recommend me? And they gave me the recommendations. I had 2 academic recommendations and 1 professional recommendation, because I was working already at the time. So I went to my boss and I said, okay, this is a scholarship that I'm applying for, and I really think you're someone that can recommend. You know me well enough to recommend me for the scholarship. So please do recommend me for this scholarship. And it was hard because, he's my employer and he wants to keep me in the job. But then I had to ask for a recommendation because I didn't want to do anything fraudulent. So those are the 3 main recommenders, if that's a thing, that I had for my scholarship. My lecturers and then my supervisor.
Okay. All right. Let's just wrap it up with, if you were to apply for the Fulbright scholarship today, what is there anything that you would do different? What have you learned throughout this journey, the application journey, and getting the scholarship? What did you learn along the way?
Now I think those are 2 separate questions. What I would do differently and what I learned. I think I'll take what I would do differently. I think in as much as I put in a lot of effort in trying to learn about trying to get ideas around building my recommendation, building my research objectives and all those things, I feel right now, if I'm doing it again, I would learn a bit more about what I want to do. I would really give in a lot of time, and by time I don't mean 1 week, or I would give in time to think about my life and not just try to please the scholarship by writing something really epic, but really identifying what I want to study. I'm going to give a lot of thought to that. And another thing I think I would do differently is I'm actually going to think about the schools that I want to go to, and then I'm going to like when they ask me to write, I'm going to write where I really want to go to. Not to say that I did not go to where I wanted to go to. I mean, it was my American dream to study at Harvard, right? And I didn't get to study at Harvard, but I got to study in the best liberal arts school in the US. That's Williams College. So I had a good story, but for other people, I feel like you can just get sent to where is available. And I think if you're being funded by the US government scholarship, you really want to have the best of the experience. And one thing, and then, so in summary, I'm going to take my time to really research about what exactly I want to do and what exactly I'm passionate about. Because once I get the scholarship, I mean, there's no going back. And then two, I'm going to have to, I mean, I've lost my thought process.
You are talking about.
I'm going to have to be very specific about the school
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And another thing I'm also going to do, which is really weird, but I'm going to build my soft skills when doing the scholarship. I think this is really underrated, but it's very important. Things like driving. I'm going to learn driving. I'm going to learn maybe the language or the accent of the American people. I want to learn that. I want to learn certain some cultural things about the American people. I want to learn not only about the American people. America is very culturally diverse, so I want to learn about other people, other cultures as well. So I think that's one of the key things I'm going to do. I'll build my soft skills. I'll build my ability to use the computer without help, because all my notes were coming, most of them were online. And if I don't know how to use, do the basics, So those are things I'm going to do. And then about the application process, what I learned, it was really a growth process. I really smile about it because I remember crying a lot about anxiety. I was like, I'm so anxious because it took 16 months. The process is 16 months, and it's not 16 passive months, it's 16 active months, meaning you're actively engaging in the process and you don't know whether you're going to be funded. That's the beautiful part. So I had to deal a lot with anxiety. I had to know that some good things take time, and I had to learn that. I had to learn excellence and diligence in work. I really admire the American people because they have a touch of excellence and diligence in everything they do. And so I was not, in the beginning, I was like, I'll just submit my substandard work and figure it out. But I realized that I needed to be excellent at what I'm doing for me to be funded. Another thing that built in me is self-confidence, that I can be funded. I got a lot of discouragement. You're too young. The field you want to do is male dominated. What you don't have enough. There was a lot. What do you think? Last year, one person was funded. Do you think that you're going to be the one person this year? And so I had to win in my head first. Like I had to say that I am a Fulbright grantee first. And I think that's what the process did to me. It made me believe that, at the end of this, you did it. Like, yes, you did it. And yeah, it's beautiful. And the last thing the process helped me is time management, deadlines, and all those things. I couldn't work with deadlines with my application. I had to do things well ahead of time, and I'm happy that I gained those skills as an applicant. And I remember one of my mentors telling me, Melissa, I was anxious about a job application, like later during my program, I was applying for something, and he was like, Melissa, if you could go through the Fulbright process, the application process, not even the scholarship, then there's nothing you can be anxious about again in this life. Like, it'll fall in place. So yeah, I think that those are the things that I would do differently, and the things I learned in the process.
Okay, so just to wrap up, if you were to give, there are many students who are going to be hoping to apply to the Fulbright program right now. When I check through in different parts of the world, of course, they have different requirements in terms of numbers of students. So as a Fulbright scholarship grantee, what is the advice that you will give students getting it? I already picked up first, it's not a short process, it's a long process. You will have to get through, like, being extremely due diligence is extremely important. You have to get through, like, the process. You have to speak to many people, write several copies of it. But if there is one last tip that you will give applicants of it, what will you say to those that are thinking about applying for this scholarship?
Firstly, try to know as much as possible what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, it's going to come up. Like, you have a lot of opportunities to talk about what you want in the Fulbright process. And if it's not consistent, it's not coherent, you'll find it very frustrating. So before you even begin, it's true, be open to learn, but at least have a sense of what you want, and then you can build up from there. On your research objective, you have I want to study, for example, zoology. I want to have a master's in zoology. But basically, at the end of the day, what they want to know in your research objective is you're probably going to write a research at the end of your program, or you'll probably have a question in your mind that is probing you to want to study zoology. Talk about that problem. Talk about how studying zoology is going to help you solve that overarching problem that can be in Cameroon, in Africa, and whatever, and then give us a good conclusion. That's basically it. And for the personal statement, they basically want to know why you. Ask yourself the question, why you? There are 10,000 people who are studying accounting in the world. Why are you the one that we should fund? What is that thing about you that is beautiful? And there's no wrong answer.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for your time. I am so appreciative of it. You have given a lot of help and information that I think if students can just pick it up, pay attention to it, make it their own, it's going to go a long way to help them throughout this process. So thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'm very grateful.
All right, thank you too very much for having me on the platform.